Good morning. My name is Randy. I'll be bringing you the message this morning. It's entitled Trusting as an Emotion. So we're talking about emotions. I had kind of wished that the wheel would, maybe this time, the wheel would stop on vacation or car or something like that, but it just didn't work out that way. But at least it's not bankrupt, right? It's my privilege to bring you this message. I was asked, almost nothing qualifies me for being up here. To deliver some message on an emotion. I'm a number 1 Enneagram, which means that emotion doesn't, I'm like the least qualified to talk about emotion. Another thing is that doesn't qualify me to be here is that I had training about 10 years ago in a 4-year Bible college, which was fundamentalist, and they train you not to talk about emotion. And so here I am, having done nothing except just when Donna asked me to speak on the emotion of trusting, just having said, okay, this is basically what qualifies me to be up here. So hopefully, what I'd like to see happen, my goal for this is to get myself out of the way and maybe just have the information that's presented here speak to you directly. I'd rather not be part of the picture anyway, right? So just wanted to get started with the slides if you have them ready. Okay, so I pasted this picture in the back of some real nice, pretty text called Trusting as an Emotion, just to kind of get you in the mood. I don't normally look for pictures of flowers on the internet because, like I said, I'm an Enneagram 1. We don't do those sorts of things. I decided to accept the challenge to bring this to you. So hopefully you see where I'm going with this. It'll take a little while to get to the bottom line of this, but we'll get through it. Everybody knows, like we're talking about emotions. Everybody knows what these emojis are. Like we saw one a couple weeks ago. It's like the smiley face with different gestures. Sometimes it's a thumbs up. I use that one a lot at work, but I guess in other countries it doesn't. It means something else. I got to be careful. But there's a lot of times we use emojis when we're texting or when we see them, we know that what they're communicating. So I'm going to give you just a quick quiz just to test your own knowledge on these emojis as emotions, right? So what's this one when you see this? What comes to mind? Yeah, you're mad or angry, right? Anger. Okay? How about this one? Yeah, happy or excitement, joy, right? If you'd use this, you don't text this when you're angry, right? What's this one? From Enneagram 6, anyone? Yeah, this is fear, or yeah, it's fear. You're scared or worried about something, right? But so this is just to show. Here's one more. What would this one be? I dug deep to find this one. Yeah, contentment. How about pride? Like you're proud of your son or daughter for graduating. That's kind of what you might text somebody. Just had a graduating daughter. Wow, I'm proud. So if you just Google search emojis, there are thousands and thousands of these things. Even other countries have their own sets of these things. So there's all kinds of emojis out there. But we're talking about an emotion called trusting. Okay, think about that. What would you come up with? What emoji would you come up with for trusting? Like, it's not something you would put on a smiley face, right? So when I Googled it, this is the first thing that came up. So the only thing that I was reminded of here is either a used car salesman or a politician. So I had to abandon this whole track of, so they're taking me in an entirely wrong direction, right? So I put the next segment of this together. This is basically a 3-step process to my approach as to how I did this, but I struggle greatly because it's, as I said, speaking about emotions is hard enough for my personality, but when you can't find the one you're looking for in a dictionary, it gets even harder. So the first step is, of course, when you're unfamiliar with an idea, you Google it, right? So you go to the dictionary and you look up trusting. Well, trust is either a verb. Trust is a verb. Trusting shows up as a verb. Trust is a noun. Trust can be a noun. But where's the emotion, right? So none of this didn't help, right? So the next step was to basically, as an Enneagram 1, you go with what you know, okay? Because you got to do something. So what do I know about trusting? It ends in ing. Well, what part of speech is that? Well, it's a gerund, right? If any of you are familiar with English. So a gerund. Well, that's not an emotion. It's just a gerund. Trusting is the ing form of a verb. That did me no good. So then I found this, I went to a more powerful source, a thesaurus, and I found this trusting as an adjective. Well, that got me closer. I found the word down in the list, unsuspecting, as another word for trusting. Okay, unsuspecting brings like this idea of I can trust you to a certain point. I'm not suspecting that you're up to no good against me. There's no motives. I don't see any ulterior motives in what you're doing. So unsuspecting. I went down through the list and I ignored the words that brought like a negative connotation to this word because the other words made it sound like you're stupid or ignorant. Like gullible. Nobody wants to be called gullible. But when you want to be known as trusting, I circled the words that help us when we want to convey that we're trusting somebody with what they're giving us or telling us, right? So words like trustful, confiding, accepting, reliant, believing. I thought these were pretty good words. Sure, certain. Those are words that when I see those words, I'm thinking what God says. When you get to words like sure and trusting and secure, you're talking about God's words there. So that led me to a much better position in putting together this information. Now, in my research, when I was just having some fun with this, I came across this tool called the Edelman Trust Barometer. Has anyone ever heard of this thing? If you read any books on trusting, which I don't until this past couple weeks, I came across this reference to this thing, and it basically gives you a lot of data, and it's actually very surprising. I'm surprised this isn't more well known, because I was reading down through some of these graphics, and it is really disturbing. This gives you a sense of how much we trust other things. And the next 10 minutes are going to be some pretty bad news. You'll have to pardon me. I didn't bring my glasses. I have all these notes here, but I can't read them. So I forgot my glasses. So I have to keep on doing this. Right here, this is the percent of people who say that my family and I will be better off in 5 years. The United States is right there in the middle of that with 36%. Only 36% of Americans think that their family and them will be better off in 5 years. That's pretty sad. Some of the higher ranking countries, Kenya, Indonesia, India, America ranks that far down, that's pretty bad. This is the percent who trust institutional leaders. You see what's the farthest, what scores the least is the government. Who here trusts the government? I mean, it's hard to trust. How about journalists? Those rank pretty low. Scientists, interestingly enough, scientists are ranking on the high end of this scale. So right now we're trusting scientists more than politicians, which is probably about right. Depends on who you ask. This is a question. If a person strongly disagreed with me or my point of view, I would, and this gets into a little bit of hostility here. The first one is, I would help them if they were in need. Only 30% of people out there would help someone in need if they didn't agree with them. Isn't that sad? Be willing to live in the same neighborhood, only 20%. I don't want that person living in my neighborhood because they don't agree with me. How about 20%? Only 20% will be willing to have them as a coworker. Isn't that sick? I mean, that's the state of our world today. Talking about trust, I wouldn't trust that we would get along in the same neighborhood. It's kind of sad. This one here, this is the final graphic on this section, but I thought it was so disturbing that I would bring it to your attention. Has anyone ever dealt with these kind of graphs? It's like a set of data on one vector and another set of data on another, and where those two lines intersect is where the point is. So on the left, it's talking about divided. My country is very or extremely divided. That's what goes up the y-axis or vertical. And then on the x-axis is entrenched. It continues, and I do not feel these divisions can be overcome. So saying it together, the more deep into the red you are, my country is very or extremely divided, and I do not feel these divisions can be overcome. It's a direct indication of lack of trust, right? The United States is way up there in the red. Does that kind of alarm you? It surprises me. Some of the most trusting countries, Indonesia, Singapore, actually China is down there, surprisingly. The United States is way up there, up past that last line. Pretty disturbing, right? So getting beyond this, let's go back to trusting as an emotion. Now, this diagram, it looks familiar to many of you. It's an Enneagram diagram. Now, I told Michelle I'd try not to hurt her too much. She's an Enneagram 6. Now, if you think about trusting as an Enneagram 6, you're talking about a person who, for her, she put it this way: it takes a long time to build her trust, but once she trusts somebody, she holds on to that trust. Am I saying this right? She'll hold on to that trust until she's so broken that she realizes it's no good anymore. So her level of trusting, or her emotion is a lot. It stays steady. Where, like with my personality, I almost trust nobody. So I don't, like, the emotional part of trusting is barely even there. But with her, it's very important. Okay, so so trusting means something. It takes with an Enneagram 6, it takes a long time to build the trust, but it can't be easily broken. They're very loyal. Okay, that leads us into a couple things here. There are two elements of trust, or two, I guess you could say, verbs when it comes to trust, two actions of trust. I have here building trust and breaking trust. Building trust is never quick. It always takes a long time to build someone's trust, if you think about it. When you get to you're introduced to somebody. No one who, having just met somebody, is going to really believe a stranger. In other words, it's another thing that disqualifies me from standing up here. Hardly any of you know me. How do you even know you can trust me, right? But here I am. It takes a long time to build trust, generally, human speaking. Building trust is always positive. Always when you do the thing that helps build trust, everybody wins. Nobody loses when you're building trust. It always develops friendships and alliances. Friends trust friends. When you're betrayed, the trust vanishes. Building trust always involves truth-telling, loving and caring. You think about the chapter 13 in 1 Corinthians about love. All those things that are listed as actions in that chapter are trust-building things. You think about the fruits of the Spirit. You're thinking about things that build trust. As opposed to breaking trust, the long time that it takes to build trust, just as inversely, breaking trust happens, it can happen like that. Somebody can betray you, and it's, to a lot of us, it's devastating. How could I have trusted you all these years, and all of a sudden, a lot of you probably have gone through something like this, or maybe many times. I know my wife has with some of the things that have happened to her in the past 5 years. Just a long time to build trust, and breaking it can happen just like that. Breaking trust is never positive. It's always negative. It's always devastating. It hurts, and a lot of times it sends us really backwards. We can go into depression, and trust is very important. It's very important. It destroys friendships and alliances. How many of you want less friends because you've betrayed them? Nobody, right? Breaking trust involves lies, selfishness, uncaring, and betrayal. You think of times that you've been betrayed, and a lot of times it involves somebody just lied to you for their own self-interest, right? So my wife lent me a book called The Atlas of the Heart, and she knew there was a chapter in there on trusting. Well, I found the chapter, and it had some good stuff in there, but it also had a reference to this book. It's called The Thin Book of Trust by Charles Feltman. And in that book, there was a quote that he made. Trust is, quote, choosing to risk making something you value vulnerable to another person's actions. So when you trust, you're putting yourself out there in some way. There's something that you're laying out there, like think of it as you're putting your foot out there for somebody to possibly step on. I mean, it could happen. Hopefully they don't. But a lot of times you hear of people laying their heart out. You lay your heart out to someone. Hopefully they don't trample it. You're trusting. So I took that a step further, and I thought about how you apply trust to risk. I don't know hopefully I'm right on this, but you can Google it yourself. But I thought of this analogy, climbing a ladder. You see the gentleman on the ladder there. How much trust does he put in that first rung when he's at the bottom? I mean, it could be rickety and ready to crack. It doesn't really matter. So you're only a foot off the ground, right? You step on that first rung, not a big deal if you fall, okay? But when he's up about that level, how about the next rung up, 32 feet in the air, or whatever it might be? He's putting a lot of trust into that. The more risk is involved, directly, the more trust you have to place in something. So when you trust the rest of your life, you get married, you trusted for the rest of your life, you need to trust your spouse because it involves the rest of your life, It's hard. It's hard to lay out that much trust. There's a lot of risk involved. I thought about these two bridges. I included these two pictures in here. That little bridge right there, what if a board is rotten and you're walking across that little footbridge right there and a couple boards break through and you fall into the water? Not a big deal, right? There's not much to trust there. You're not going to analyze the government isn't going to come out and make sure the boards are safe once a year and do an inspection, right? Well, what about that other bridge? That's a little different story. You go across that and you fall through, that's not going to end well. So the more risk there is involved, the more trust there needs to be applied. So these are the kind of things, and the children's message, I can either look at it as totally took the wind out of my sails, or maybe I could just repeat the same thing and and maybe drive the point home a little farther. But how do we become trustworthy? How do we become trustworthy people? Our conduct and conversation must be consistent. We can't tell one thing, change it 3 days later to the same person with no reason, no other reason. Oh, that's not what I said, this is what I said. So we need to be consistent. We need to be honest and dependable. I mean, these are all biblical virtues. Dependability is always being there like you're expected to be for your friends, okay? Your significant other. Being safe, what I mean by that is to be a person that another person can feel safe coming to confide in you. You're not going to take what they say and publish it in the newspaper. They find safety in you. How about integrity? We need to walk with uprightness. We need to, this is the specialty of the Enneagram 1, is to do the right thing. At least try. Always be people that can be trusted to do the right thing. Temperance and patience. Not get impatient when someone's trying to talk to us, but just to listen. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason. Confidential. Again, this goes with safety a little bit. We're expected to keep secrets secret. It builds trust. To tell a secret instantly breaks that trust with whoever told you. Accountability. We can't not own our own faults and problems. When we do that, when someone points to us and say, you made a mistake, don't deflect, don't blame it on others, just acknowledge your own faults, acknowledge your wrongdoings. That'll help build trust. What trust there is to build from that. Now we finally get to the scripture, and we're almost done. I know it took this long to get here, but now we get to Jeremiah 17:7. Now, the word that is the first mention of the word trust, that's the real word, trust. The other one, the second word, where I have confidence, it's not really translated trust as often. In this version it is, but most versions it's some other word. I think the scripture that was read is I can't remember the word that it used, but I'm referring to the first word there. That first word trust is batach. It's pronounced batach, and it means to trust. Okay, so it's blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. So taking everything that we've come to so far, we're looking at Jeremiah saying that anyone that places their trust in anything but the Lord, you can expect, it won't always happen, but you can expect to be let down. You can expect to be hurt. But when you trust in the Lord, the very next verse talks about that person shall be like a tree planted by the water. Now, as soon as I saw that verse, I thought of Psalm 1, where the psalmist is talking about the tree planted by the rivers of water. The man that trusts in the Lord shall be like that tree. That Jeremiah and David are both comparing themselves or seeing themselves as this tree. What is it about a tree planted by the water? You can't trust your legs to run away from problems. That tree stays there. In a drought, what does that tree do? It stays there because it trusts that it's going to be furnished with the sunlight it needs and the water that it needs. We're looking at a drought right now out there, kind of a strain on our gardens and whatnot, but you look at these trees, they have roots that go down, and those things are happy as could be, you know. One of our maple trees is starting to lose some leaves out in the yard, but it does that every once in a while, maybe about one every 10 years. We get a drought like this. It's okay. Next year will be fine. That tree stays there because it trusts that it will be provided with everything it needs. So I see Jeremiah doing the same thing David did, comparing themselves to that tree that doesn't move. It just trusts all the time. So just to wrap this up, I think this might be the last slide. Basically, the question is, who can I trust? Okay, so I did another one of these 2-column things. Anytime we trust in anything other than the Lord, a lot of times the trust is built on something that is motivated by other interests, either that other person's self-interest, my self-interest, whatever. When we trust in somebody else, they could imply or impart some self-motivation or self-interest. When we trust in anything else, it's not perfect. I think of a lot of times people will say something that they themselves trust to be the truth or trust that it won't hurt you. And the first thing is you both get on the same page, you're trusting in something, you're going with it, and then you both find out that you're wrong, or you both find out that this hurt, and now there's 2 hurt people. I thought of this being things that we trust are encumbered with decay, rust, and age. Anyone familiar with the laws of thermodynamics? The second law is that things wind down. What happens in our world out there is that when we trust things that are too long, like a 65 pickup truck, you know, if you hadn't done anything, if you haven't crawled under that truck to check and make sure since 1965, you're not going to be able to trust it too much anymore because the thing winds down, it decays and rots. You know what I mean? So you have to keep after it. Things just can't be trusted after so long. And it's hard to tell if what you're seeing or hearing is true. We all watch the news. How many of you trust everything you hear on the news? Good. Don't put up your hand. It happens on both sides. You can't trust everything. So you put your trust in anything else other than the Lord, you can expect problems. You're going to get hurt every now and then. However, on the flip side, if you trust in the Lord, what is he motivated by? It's clear in his scripture that he loves each of us. He is always motivated by our interest. He wants to do what we need. He wants to do for us and provide for us what we need. He doesn't need anything. There's nothing in it for him other than our love for him. But he loves us so much, everything he does for us is in our best interest. He's always perfect. Every promise that he's ever made has either not come to pass or has been proven to be true. He's completely right. He's completely trustworthy. He is ageless, timeless, and eternal. He doesn't rust or rot or decay. He's always trustworthy. And we can be confident that everything that he says is true. That brings me to the conclusion of this message, is that God is trustworthy. It's great to place our trust in others. We need each other. We need to rely on each other. And we need to convey ourselves as people that can be trusted. Okay? Thank you.